The sun had barely climbed over the roofs of Ghazipur when Aarav Mishra stepped out of his small rented room. His backpack was light, but his dreams were heavy, the kind that bend a person's spine before they ever bend destiny. Aarav worked at a mechanic's shop by day and studied for competitive exams by night. Not because he loved either, but because life had never asked him what he wanted. It simply shoved responsibilities into his palms like unwanted change. Every morning he caught the same rickety local train, the Jan Seva Express, where crowds pressed into each other like pages of an overstuffed notebook. And every morning he saw Meera Sharma, a college topper, always reading, always glowing with a calm Aarav envied. He watched her from afar, a silent admirer of the quiet confidence she wore like a second skin. He, on the other hand, felt invisible, just another face in the endless sea of commuters, each one chasing a life that seemed just out of reach. His own dream felt like a distant star bright, but impossibly far. The exams were his only ticket out, but the mountain of failures was growing taller with each attempt. Doubt was a constant companion, whispering that maybe this life, this routine, was all he was meant for. He was tired of fighting a battle he felt he was destined to lose. One day, the train screeched to a halt between stations, a common occurrence. The sudden stop jolted everyone. In the chaos, the torn second-hand guide slipped from his hand. As he picked it up, he noticed Meera looking at him. Her gaze wasn't one of pity, but of curiosity. "You preparing for the exam?" she asked, her voice clear and kind above the train's groans. But Aarav, surprised that she had even noticed him, simply nodded, trying, failing, trying again. He mumbled, the words tasting like ash in his mouth. Meera smiled not, the polite, distant kind, but a genuine smile that reached her eyes and seemed to plant courage directly into his weary heart. "You know," she said, her voice steady, "failing doesn't mean you're not capable. It just means you're not done." Her words hit him like the first cool breeze after a long, breathless summer afternoon. It was a simple sentence, yet it sliced through years of self-doubt. It wasn't an empty platitude. It was a truth he hadn't allowed himself to believe. He wasn't a failure. He was just unfinished. A work in progress. That evening, as he walked home from the mechanic's shop, his body ached with exhaustion, but his mind was strangely clear and hopeful. For the first time in a long time, he felt a flicker of fire. He decided he was done hiding behind excuses and the fear of failing again. He was done being a victim of his circumstances. He carved out hours from nowhere. He started studying on crowded station platforms, using the precious minutes of his lunch break, and reading under the flickering street lamps of Ghazipur long after the city had gone to sleep. His friends at the shop laughed. Dreamer, they'd call him, shaking their heads. Life mocked him with new problems, new expenses, new reasons to give up. Sleep became a luxury he could no longer afford. But he kept going, fueled by Meera's words and a newfound determination. Weeks turned into months. The routine was grueling, a relentless cycle of grease, books and exhaustion. There were days he wanted to burn his books and surrender. But then he would remember that smile on the train, that simple belief from a stranger, and he would pick himself up and start again. Finally, the day of the exam arrived, hanging in the air like a monsoon cloud, dark, heavy, and full of possibility. Aarav walked into the examination hall, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He wrote with a trembling hand, each answer carrying the weight of years he'd spent being told he wasn't enough, the sweat of his labor and the echo of a single encouraging voice. Then came the waiting, the agonizing period where all you can do is hope. The day the results were announced, he stood outside the local cybercafe, his fingers shaking as he typed in his details. He refreshed the web page once, twice, his breath caught in his throat. A third time manned. Then it appeared. The words seemed to jump off the screen, shimmering with a light of their own. Aarav Mishra qualified. For a moment, the world froze. The relentless noise of the street, the honking horns, the shouting vendors, it all faded into a soft, distant hum. He didn't shout. He didn't jump. He just stood there as the universe seemed to crack open, not with a loud explosion of fireworks, but with a quiet, steady, internal light. It was the light of self-belief, finally ignited. That evening, on the same local train, he saw her again. This time, he didn't hesitate. He walked over to where Meera was sitting, her book open on her lap. "I passed," he said, a wide, unstoppable smile spreading across his face. She looked up, closed her book slowly, and a knowing smile graced her lips. "I never doubted it," she said softly. "Some people are born fighters. They just take some time to notice." And as the train rolled forward, it carried two dreamers into the night, one who had just learned how to rise, and one who had unknowingly shown him how, both heading toward a future that finally felt real, a future that was earned. Thank you for watching. If this story resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires.